It's the fourth and final hour of Zolak and Bertrand on this Friday with a very special guest from the NFL League office, one of the two chief people in charge of putting together the NFL schedule. Mike North is one of those people, and this person, Max St. John, who joined. Good afternoon. Thanks for
doing well. Thanks for having me.
How's Mike doing?
Mike's good. Mike's similarly doing his radio tour. He refers himself to kind of Groundhog Day. Schedule comes out, everyone kind of trots him around, and he kind of goes back into his hole after that till the next schedule release.
As I am getting on my knees and praying to you, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for not putting us anywhere on Thanksgiving or Christmas. Those things are devastating to families, to teams. No player, no coach. Nobody whatsoever.
No, it's devastating to Scott Zolak.
I played for the Dolphins. We played it, and we had a new baby, and we had to go to Dallas to play on Thanksgiving. And it killed the family. Just kills families. Really
I can't promise you guys won't be in that window in future years. But
I know. That's what he's hoping for right now. That's why he's put on this sob story, trying to make sure you remember it for next year.
My son has his last high school football game Thanksgiving morning. I would have missed that if we were on it, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks.
Max, how long does this take to build out this schedule for all of the teams in the league?
Truthfully, we start looking at the rotations years in advance, but the first schedule that we'll make will probably be, I think we made it right as game 272 ended this past season. So January 5th, once the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Ravens, we knew all 272. So we go into the software, we put all the games in, we keep our sort of evergreen rules around short weeks and travel, and consecutive road and home games. And from there we start. And from January 6th all the way to schedule coming out, whatever the date was 2 days ago, or yesterday, I should say, on May 14th. So it's really a 4.5 month process.
That's wild to me because I know that all of these buildings that teams play in, they may have another team, like a shared building in LA, which is a factor. But in addition to that,
Meadowlands,
there are events. I mean, we're talking about a Patriots schedule that has them on the road 3 of the first 4. They have events in their building. Yeah. How far in advance do you have to be told of all this stuff that's going on?
We'll send out our team forms in mid-February. Like you said, the Patriots are blocked in weeks 1, 3, and 4. So that's why you kind of see that window of just the one home game in week 2. So that's something we navigate with a lot of teams. So mid-February, we send out the form. That's the chance for the teams to say, hey, our stadium's not available on these dates. It's also a chance for the teams to come and tell us, hey, here's something we haven't liked in our previous schedule. Not to say we'll always solve for those things, but it's important for us to know. I think a great example was last year, Green Bay reached out to us and said, you've scheduled us on the road for 7 consecutive years in week 1. Why do you keep doing that? So things like that maybe we don't notice going back years, it's an opportunity for the teams to come to us and say, hey, we think this is something we deserve this year. Again, not that we always can take everything into account. Teams hate playing in Florida in September. Teams hate playing up north in December. So when everyone requests that, not everyone can get that. But
it felt like either when I played or when I covered a team now or did the games now for the last 14 years, it always felt like we got Miami right the first 2 weeks of the year down in Miami. And now we don't, which is. But
can say that's not intentional. You definitely escaped it this year. So I think last year you guys were week 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was week 2, and that was the first win for Vrabel. Do you take into consideration divisional games that first month that we got to at least get one in that first month of football?
I wouldn't say the first month. Something weird that happened a couple of years ago is I don't think the Bears played a division game until week 9 or so. And that was something we said that's a little bit strange. So we really want to make sure there's at least a division game early in the season. But we like those games later in the season. That's when you have the Patriots and the Bills and whoever else competing for their divisions. We want those games later in the season. Another example of this is Seattle and the Rams. They both went to the playoffs last year. They're competing for the NFC West. NFC Championship game. They don't play each other until week 16. We want those divisional games with high stakes late in the season. We really put an emphasis on that. So while we make sure there's at least a couple divisional games early in the season, we want to emphasize those late as well.
Can you take us through the primetime selection process?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, our primetime partners are NBC Sunday Night Football, ESPN Monday Night Football, and Amazon Thursday Night Football. So really similarly, we'll try and make sure that all of our playoff teams have a variety of games throughout that. So that's really an emphasis that we put on. So again, kind of looking forward, try not to look too much back. We know teams had a lot of good seasons last year, but who do we think is going to be good this next season? Those are the teams that we really want to emphasize throughout our primetime schedule. Not to say that every team can get on the primetime schedule. There were 5 teams that didn't make it on this year, but as we talk about, that's always an opportunity for flex. The Patriots were a team last year coming in, had 4 wins, had an awesome season. We moved them into Week 16 Sunday Night Football, so we always have that in our back pocket for teams that kind of come and surprise us that we maybe don't put initially on the primetime schedule, but play their way on.
How did you arrive at the decision that the Patriots and Seahawks would be the matchup for the opener on Wednesday night?
Couple different things, really. One, trying to spotlight 2 of our best teams from last season, Patriots having 13 wins, Seattle having 14 as well. And also a Super Bowl rematch probably never being more interesting than it is in week 1. Previous season, we had Philly and KC play in week 2. That game was in Kansas City, so we couldn't have that home NBC game for Philadelphia, but we really tried, at least in recent years, emphasize those games early in the season. So the mix of those 2 teams having a really strong season last year and kind of playing into the Super Bowl as well.
So is there any external factors that go into that? For example, the Patriots are always a polarizing team. People either love them or hate them. They've been in the headlines in the offseason for things that are not football related. Do those things get considered in that it will drive ratings? It will, be a success on that Wednesday night game for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Patriots have been a brand that's resonated for years with how much success that you guys had. So after a couple down years, as they've kind of made the return, we really see that kind of audience again building back behind them, that we feel pretty comfortable putting them in a national window and to start the season with Seattle.
I've done Mexico City. I've done London 3 times. We were in Germany 2 years ago. We're going back this year, obviously. What kind of feedback are you getting from like the Brazil games, the longer flights, and obviously heading to Australia this year from teams, especially like?
It depends who you talk to. A lot of some of the front office will love it. The football side, maybe not quite as much, but we really do try. And with these new unique games and longer flights, we want to have really structure the travel around those. So you'll see both the 49ers and the Rams are coming to home games when they return. Baltimore is as well when they come back from Rio. Dallas, unfortunately, is not. They actually had their stadium blocked in week 4. So before they knew they were going to Rio, they had an event in that stadium. They found out, they said, we can't move it. You're going to try. We tried to keep them to a close road game after that, but that's something we definitely keep into consideration as just another complication as we continue to expand the international games outside of the traditional Europe games that we played for a handful of years now, stretching into Brazil and Australia.
We're talking to Max St. John from the NFL, who is a big part of creating the schedule that was released last night in the league. How much are the quality of teams factored in for any team's particular schedule? Meaning you don't want to overload a team with 5 straight playoff teams from a year ago. Does that get factored in where you try and break up some of the bigger important games and the quality of the opponents?
We try not to too much, knowing that, again, it's not like we're deciding the 17 games that a team plays. Those have been decided years in advance by rotation. So certainly, yes, we want to make sure we have good games balanced throughout the season, but we don't really try and go to a specific team and say, yeah, let's really create this sort of sequence from them with maybe an easier team. We don't think that's fair to do. So we definitely avoid that.
Do you guys drop this thing into like ChatGPT when you're done? Like, that's what everybody wonders. Where does this go? What kind of checks and balances and rechecking goes into that before you
baseballed it out?
And what role? And to be specific about it, what role does AI play in this thing now?
It plays really, I'd say the biggest role is trying to make sure we get our biggest games into our biggest windows. How much audience we can get behind those games. So early in the season, there's a ton of storylines to tell. We really have a large variety of teams spread out those primetime windows throughout the early season. There's kind of an inflection point around the middle where it's less around, the storylines from the offseason kind of die off. And now we're talking about the actual regular season, and we have a little bit more emphasis on playoffs and division races and teams competing for the first overall seed in their conference. And that's really what helps us predict teams we think will be good, kind of looking at a lot of betting data and whatnot, win totals, odds to win the division. Like I said, we want our biggest games and biggest windows. And the thing that we want is to have our big division games or conference games later in the season. Yeah, so that's something where it definitely helps.
The Thanksgiving Day trifecta, you've nailed it. Like this is the biggest ever. You guys are going to be pumping this one up for a long time.
Yeah, it's 3 days are insane.
Yeah,
it's like
insanely good.
You can't hang out with family. Yeah. You can't shop. You can't eat. You can't get anything done. You can't put up a Christmas tree.
You've done it, NFL.
What else would you want to do? Just watch football. Yeah,
football.
Yeah, we're going to be locked in now.
You mastered the world.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of going in chronological order, this is the first time we're playing on Thanksgiving Eve. So there was a little bit of structural challenges with if we're going to do this, how do we do this? So we have the Rams and Packers playing in week 10. They come back to their bye the next week, and then they come and play on Wednesday, and that will give at least the Packers 11 days off. The Rams actually come back to the following Thursday. But we wanted to make sure we had a big game in that window for the first time ever. So that kind of led us to circling the Rams and the Packers for that. And last year we went big on Thanksgiving too. We had a huge Detroit Green Bay game at 1 o'clock. We had Cowboys and Chiefs. Those were our two highest viewed regular season games ever. We tried to put a good game for the NBC late primetime window. By that point, Joe Burrow had been hurt. The Bengals had a little bit of a tough season at that point, so maybe didn't play out quite as we wanted to. He still came back and they won that game. It was still a competitive game, but we hadn't really gone big on that window before. So something that's kind of unique about that is we know the Lions are playing at 1 o'clock every Thanksgiving. They have 8 opponents to choose from. We know the Cowboys are playing at 4 o'clock on Thanksgiving. They had 8 opponents to choose for. We kind of have carte blanche with that late game to let's really see what happens when we put one of our biggest games in that window. So that led us to playing probably one of our biggest rivalries. I kind of liken it to Brady Manning of 5-10 years ago to that game in that window.
Do teams request when they want their bye? And if they do, what's the most common request? And is that the biggest complaint you guys hear about the schedule? Is a team unhappy with where their bye was placed on the schedule?
Teams typically request mid-season buys. Nobody loves having an early season bye. If I'm not mistaken, I think we have 2 week 5 buys and 2 week 14 buys. So teams really like it in that 8, 9, 10 sweet spot. Gets a little challenging around Thanksgiving as well. We don't have buys that week because we're pulling so many games into all these windows. We need to make sure we have a handful for Sunday afternoon as well. So kind of shuffling around that. I would say that's the most common. I would say it kind of depends on the team. Some teams will complain about it's really if they get an early season bye. That would probably be the biggest complaint we get. Again, we really try and limit the teams that get those, and we make sure if you got a week 5 bye last year, we're not going to give one to you next year. If you got a 3-game road trip last year, we're not going to give one to you next year. I believe the Patriots had one last year, if I'm not mistaken. So that's something, kind of the 2 big things I would say teams complain about.
So Max, you are the manager, scheduling, planning, analytics for the NFL. What do you do the rest of the year when you're not making the schedule?
Flex scheduling. So starting with Sunday afternoon, we help decide the distribution of each game. There's going to be 5, 6, 7 games on CBS or Fox at 1 o'clock, helping decide which game goes into which market. So when the Patriots are playing, Patriots are going to be on in Boston. Absolute no question. But say they're playing on Sunday Night Football or they're on bye. Do you bring in a division game? Do you have the Bills air in Boston? So decisions like that, and then multiply that across the 200-something markets across the United States. So
do you draw the maps? Are you the guy? Are you the maps guy?
We are not the map guy. That is ultimately up to our broadcast partners, but we certainly have certain rules around them, and we advise, hey, we think you're making a mistake here. This game should be on in this market for X, Y, and Z reason.
You're a map guy. I'm a good map guy.
Yeah, Zoe can draw you a really great map. I love the maps. We talk about the maps pretty much every Friday during football season.
Oh, yeah.
We do.
It's a really cool process to be a part of, something I didn't really appreciate till I got here. So that takes up a lot of time during the early part of it. Continues throughout the whole season, but it's probably my focus the start of the season. And then flex scheduling kicks in. Sunday Night Football, you can flex as early as week 5. Monday Night Football, we've only used it once, I think starts in week 12, and Thursday night in week 13. So looking out a handful of weeks in advance, if a team is struggling, there was an injury, or more importantly, like the Patriots last year, a team that has played their way into a national window, what opportunities do we have to spotlight them? So that's kind of what we're always looking at. When you have a game that holds up, you can kind of, sitting in week 6, week 8, Sunday Night Football looks pretty good. We don't really need to worry about the flex conversations, but week 9, their quarterback's hurt, that other team's not playing so well. What are our options to flex out of that game?
You put Denver late here in New England. That's a potential flex game, right? Unless it's protected.
Absolutely. There's a reason that's in the TBD pool. We have an AFC Championship rematch at our disposal wherever we want to use it, whether it be in one of those Saturday windows, flex it to Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, or use it on Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon 4:25 is our biggest window. We want to put our best games there. So there's always an opportunity if there's, any of those windows sort of fall apart, that game is sitting there for us to use. So that was definitely intentional on our part.
I thought there was a rule maybe 15 years ago that teams could only have a max of 6 primetime games. You get the Rams, they have 7 already. Is there a hard cap on the number of games a team can play in primetime?
There is. It's a little bit higher than that. And frankly, the Rams are very, very excited about their schedule. They've been one of our best teams over the past few years. And as they're a fun watch. Absolutely. And we really want to rely on them in national windows. And they're hearing from their team as their schedule came out. They've been pretty thrilled with those national windows, not only just throughout the season, but playing around the holidays as well. I know you guys maybe aren't quite as big fans about holidays, but they were pretty excited to have a game on Thanksgiving Eve and Christmas.
No, it's just so he doesn't like.
We know. I was rooting for the Rams Patriots Super Bowl. Like I want to see Stafford versus May. Like it's just. It's the ignorance on Seattle. Seattle was not viewed a lot around here because of the time difference and the windows that they did play in this past year.
Absolutely, they were previous year similar. They weren't a playoff team. They were definitely on Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, but they were coming off. I think they were 8-9 or 9-8. Yeah. So we didn't lean into them. They were by all means a good football team, but we didn't feel the need to lean into them super hard. Versus this year, where you'll see them multiple times on Sunday Night Football, a couple games on Monday Night Football. They're playing on Christmas. They're playing Week 15 Saturday. They've played their way into those national windows. So
when will the Jets never play on 1 o'clock again?
When they're on the West Coast.
Unbelievable.
West Coast.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, but still growing up, that's where the majority of our games are played. And as teams improve, they have an opportunity to play themselves into a much larger footprint on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. That's maybe not something that people look at a lot, but when we have big games at 1 o'clock, they can go up to 70, 80% of the country and have a lot of eyeballs in there. Maybe they're not in prime time, but there's always an opportunity for those games to really reach a wide footprint across the United States.
All right. Well, Max, it's great talking to you. Appreciate
it, Max. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Thanks.